Remember video stores? They were a magical place where people from around the community would come together for one purpose: finding something to watch, finding a movie that is going to scratch that itch. And you know what I love about video stores is video stores require you to actually engage another living, breathing human being. And if you're anything like me, you kind of miss that. Because now, if I want to watch a movie, I go to the local movie kiosk, I press a couple of buttons, and one magically comes from the machine. Or I look at one of the streaming options online and watch something on my computer or just at home. And it's great. But what's happened is that now, as I'm watching these movies, I don't actually have to engage my neighbor. I don't have to talk to my neighbor. Sometimes loving your most vulnerable neighbor looks like that a lot in your churches too. We want to think of the easiest way to find out who's vulnerable without really talking to those working with vulnerable people or those who are most vulnerable themselves. And it's easy for us when we're kind of living in a bubble like that for us to think, well, there aren't vulnerable people in our community who could be exploited. Not in our community, yes, in that community, sure, but not here, not in our backyard. Well, like I said before, human trafficking is the exploitation of vulnerability for commercial gain. And it can happen anywhere because there are vulnerable populations everywhere, no matter where you go. And so, for us, as we look at this community needs assessment, my encouragement for you is to gear up. It's to get ready because you are going to be interviewing people in your community. So first, yes, start with a Google search. Google nonprofits and your zip code. Google social services and your zip code. Find out where the local community stakeholders are and reach out to them. When you reach out and set appointments, I want you to ask questions. Yes, you can start with the low-hanging fruit. Who are the most vulnerable populations that you're seeing here? Who are the people that traffickers would target in our zip code? What are the needs that are not being addressed? What are some local community assets that need to be depended on? What are things that are already working? What are things that aren't? What are some gaps that need to be filled? How could a church come alongside of you? Once you start getting this information, you're going to be able to start building a picture of who could be most vulnerable in your community. But I want you to really think through, as your team sets out to do these interviews, I want you to think through how you can interview the most organizations within this window of time. Because each organization is going to see their part of the pie. But for you to get a comprehensive picture, you need to talk to everyone and you need to ask them these questions. I know that this task can feel daunting. I know that. But my encouragement to you is that you are part of the community. And the community, they see your church. But today, you get to decide whether your church will be seen as a community mausoleum or a mission center. So I want to encourage you, think through who you need to talk to and start processing how you are going to set up these appointments. Because what you're doing matters.